Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Now today I'm going to do something a little different. I will be posting a podcast that I created using AI tools. And the specific AI tool I use is called Notebook LM, and I love it. If you're not familiar with it, Google it. Okay, it's part of the Google suite of AI tools, and I really am having fun playing around with it. So, what I basically did, I took a couple of resources and I gave the notebook a prompt and I asked it to create a podcast for me. And today's podcast is going to center around why men cheat, basically. And to be more specific, to kind of fit into the mommy sector, which I have been dibbling and dabbling in for quite a few years and now making content on, I specifically asked them to address Olivia and Jerrod's situation. And I guess you could throw Nisha in there too. So I basically created this podcast to kind of, I guess, explore the conversation of Jerrod possibly having cheated with Olivia. Now, I am one of those people who don't believe in this toward illicit affair story that Liv has put out. Do I believe something inappropriate may have taken place? Most certainly. I'm human. I'm a woman. I've been around on this earth long enough to know that men cheat, and they'll do it for the craziest reasons or in the most dumbest ways. So I put nothing past a man. Is it possible that Jerrod cheated with Olivia? Hey, if she was to ever post pictures and actual proof of it, I wouldn't be shocked. But until then, I have my doubts. So just for fun, I gave the information to, like I said, to create this podcast. I personally believe that it was neutral. It wasn't slanted one way or the other. So just to kind of give you an idea, just so you know that I didn't slant it to make one person look bad or look better. In fact, like I said, my premise is that I would say he technically maybe emotionally cheated with Olivia, but again, this whole toward affair that she's laid out for us, I don't believe it. So here's the prompt in a nutshell that I gave, or the instructions that I added to my podcast request, and it is this. How would the source material explain a situation in which a man, Jerrod, leaves his now ex-wife Olivia for another woman and eventually gains custody of the kids due to the ex-wife's reckless behavior? Mind you, he was with the ex-wife for numerous years, in which they both displayed toxic behavior such as cheating on both parties, breaking up unplanned pregnancies before they were married, and the marriage only lasted 2 years, in which approximately 18 months of it was dealing with divorce and custody issues. Jerrod is now married to the other woman who is helping him raise the 3 kids. Olivia has a lot of resentment because of their past history and is still in love with him and believes that he is still in love with her, to the point she claims they recently had a 5-month affair. Keep in mind, Jerrod and Olivia have been apart for roughly 5 years, and she has had 2 more kids by 2 different men that she no longer has a relationship with, and is currently pregnant with another man's child. So I think that if you are in this sector and you are familiar with Olivia, you would say this is a true statement of the status of their relationship. So I plugged that in, pushed the magic button, and this is what it came up with. Now, mind you, I put Jerrod's name in there and I spelled it correctly, but the podcaster host will call him Jerrod. Now, we know Olivia calls him Jafar. Some people call him Jerry, so it is what it is. But you'll know who they are talking about. And the question, it goes to, if Jerrod cheated, why did he cheat? Also, this is based off of the workings of Carl Jung. He is a psychoanalyst. He was around in the early part of the 19th century during the time of Freud. So it's based on his principles. So take a listen and tell me what you think.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're doing something a little different. Usually, we take a wide-angle lens to, big trends or broad ideas, but today we are zooming all the way in.
All the way in.
We're looking at a specific, messy, chaotic human situation. Let's call it a case study. And we're going to try to diagnose it using a very specific set of psychological tools.
Yeah, and I think messy is, putting it lightly, this story reads like a soap opera script that got rejected for being too unrealistic.
Right.
It's got everything. Mutual betrayal, custody battles, a redemption arc, and then a sudden plot twist that threatens to burn the whole thing down.
It really does. So let me set the scene for everyone listening, just so we're all on the same page. We have a couple. We'll call them Jerrod and Olivia.
Okay.
They meet young. They spend years in this cycle of absolute mutual toxicity. And I'm talking cheating on both sides, breakups, makeups, screaming matches, unplanned pregnancies.
The whole 9 yards.
The whole thing. Eventually, they get married, but that marriage barely lasts 18 months. And honestly, most of that time was just divorce proceedings and fighting over the kids.
Right. Sounds like a disaster from day one. Just a classic case of two people who bring out the absolute worst in each other, but somehow can't stay away.
Exactly. But here is where it gets interesting, and where our case study really begins. Fast forward 5 years. Jerrod. He's the stable one now. Somehow, he won full custody of their 3 kids, which is rare enough to tell you something about how volatile Olivia must have been at the time. He's remarried to a woman who is the total opposite of Olivia. Calm, stable, perfect. He's built a respectable life. Olivia spiraled. She has 2 more kids by 2 different fathers she's no longer with. She's currently pregnant again with another man's child. She's chaotic.
Wow.
But she claims that she and Jerrod, Mr. Responsible, Mr. Remarried, recently had a secret 5-month affair.
Whoa. So the guy who fought for custody and built the white picket fence life potentially blew it all up to go back to the source of his trauma.
That's the allegation. Now, we don't know for a fact if the affair happened, but the accusation alone blows the lid off everything. And the question we're tackling today isn't, did they do it? It's why.
Yes.
Why do people blow up their lives like this? Is Jerrod just a liar? Is Olivia just, crazy? Or is there something much deeper driving the bus?
That is the million-dollar question. Usually when we hear stories like this, we stop at the surface, we say, he's a dirtbag or she's a train wreck.
Right.
We judge the behavior.
Right.
But today, we're going to look at Jerrod and Olivia through the lens of Carl Jung.
The psychologist.
Heavyweight of depth psychology. We have this fascinating transcript and a stack of articles discussing Jung's theories on the shadow and the anima. And if we apply Jung to this mess, what looks like bad decision-making starts to look like an unconscious cry from a fractured soul.
Okay, so you're saying Jung wouldn't see Jerrod as just a guy slipping up? He'd see this as a structural failure in his psyche.
Precisely. Jung believed that our destructive actions, especially something as volatile as cheating with a toxic ex, are driven by forces we don't understand and definitely don't control. He talks about the shadow and the anima.
I've heard these terms thrown around in pop psychology, but I want to get specific. Let's start at the beginning of their timeline. Those early toxic years.
Okay.
Jerrod and Olivia are cheating on each other constantly. Why stay in that chaos? If you're stepping out on the relationship anyway, why not just leave?
This is where we have to talk about the shadow. In Jungian psychology, the shadow isn't just evil. It's the collection of all the parts of ourselves that we suppress or deny.
Like what?
Aggression, selfishness, taboo sexual desires, but also vulnerability, wildness, the refusal to follow rules. Society and our parents tell us to be good. Don't be angry. Don't be selfish. Be polite.
Right.
So we take those traits, and we shove them into a bag and drag it behind us. That bag is the shadow. But Jung's golden rule is, what you bury doesn't die. It grows.
It grows in the dark. That's a terrifying image.
It is, and it's accurate. One of the articles we reviewed suggests that infidelity can actually be a twisted form of shadow work.
Hold on. Shadow work is usually something you do in therapy with a notebook, not in a motel room with your ex.
True. But think about the mechanism. In their early years, both Jerrod and Olivia were living in chaos. Jung might argue that the cheating wasn't about falling out of love. It was the shadow acting out. When you try so hard to maintain a self-image, or in their case, maybe just trying to survive the pressure of a dysfunctional bond, those suppressed impulses need a release valve.
So cheating is a rebellion.
Exactly. It's a rebellion against the constraints of the relationship or even against their own better judgment. The source suggests that by engaging in that betrayal, they might have been trying to feel something real or untamed. If your life feels suffocating or fake, the shadow says, I'll show you real, I'll burn this down.
So the chaos was the point. They weren't looking for a new partner. They were looking for access to that wild part of themselves.
Yes. They were using each other to access the parts of themselves they couldn't bring to the dinner table. It's dysfunctional, absolutely. But psychologically, it served a purpose. It kept the shadow alive.
Okay, so that explains the early years. But then comes the split, and this is the part that really fascinates me. Jerrod leaves. He meets the new woman.
Right.
And he doesn't just date her, he marries her. He gets full custody of the kids, which, again, huge responsibility. And he establishes this very stable, moral, respectable life.
The white picket fence pivot.
Exactly. He goes from chaos to order. Olivia, meanwhile, keeps spiraling, but let's look at Jerrod. He leaves Olivia for this new woman. Our notes talk about the anima and projection. How does that explain Jerrod jumping from total chaos to total stability so fast?
This is one of Jung's most complex ideas, but it explains so much about male psychology.
Yeah.
The anima is the unconscious feminine dimension within a man. It's the seat of his emotional life, his vulnerability, his soul, essentially.
Okay.
But because it's unconscious, men often don't recognize it in themselves. Instead, they project it onto a woman. It's like a movie projector. The man has this film running inside his head of his ideal soulmate, his savior, the woman who will make him whole. And when he meets a woman who fits the physical description, click, the projector turns on.
So he's not really seeing the woman standing in front of him.
Not initially, no. He's seeing the movie. When Jerrod met his current wife, he likely wasn't seeing her as a flawed human being with bad morning breath and quirky habits. He was seeing a blank canvas.
A blank canvas. That implies he was painting his own picture on her.
He was projecting his need for peace. Think about it. He's exhausted from years of fighting with Olivia. He feels fractured. He looks for a woman who embodies the peace, the structure, and the wholeness he lacks. He thinks, she is the missing piece of my puzzle. If I marry her, I will be fixed.
That sounds, I don't know, romantic, but also kind of dangerous.
It's incredibly dangerous.
Yeah.
Because nobody can be your missing piece forever. Eventually, the new wife is going to just be a person. She's going to have needs. She's going to be real. And that's usually when the projection shatters.
So Jerrod wasn't necessarily falling in love with the new wife. He was falling in love with the idea of stability.
He was chasing the ghost of his own projection.
Yeah.
He wanted to be the good guy, so he found a good woman to play the role alongside him. It's a casting decision, not just a romance.
That makes sense. After years of drama, a woman who represents peace must feel like a savior. But here is where the plot twists, and this is the part that I think is hardest for people to understand.
The alleged affair.
Right. 5 years later, Jerrod has the stability. He has the kids. He won. Why on earth would he risk it all to go back to Olivia?
Yeah.
Olivia is the source of his trauma. She's the chaos he escaped. Why go back into the burning building?
It seems irrational, doesn't it? If you look at it logically, it's stupid. But the psyche isn't logical, it's compensatory. To understand this, we have to look at the tension between the persona and the shadow.
Okay, define persona for us.
The persona is the mask we wear for the world. It's the role we play. For the last 5 years, what has Jerrod's role been?
He's the good father. He's the savior. He's the guy who stepped up when the mom couldn't.
Exactly. He has to be that guy, to keep custody, to maintain his marriage, to be the opposite of Olivia. He has had to be perfectly responsible, perfectly moral, perfectly controlled.
That sounds exhausting.
It is incredibly exhausting. It's crushing. The source material makes a fascinating point here. The stricter the persona, the more pressure builds in the shadow. Think of it like a beach ball. The harder you push under the water, the harder you try to be good, the more force it has when it shoots back up.
So are you saying he cheated because he was trying so hard to be good?
In a way, yes. A man who feels trapped in the role of the responsible husband might cheat, not because he doesn't love his wife, but to escape the suffocating constraints of his own identity. He needs a pressure valve.
And Olivia is the valve.
Olivia is the ultimate valve. Jung would say this affair is almost certainly not about loving Olivia. It's about what Olivia represents.
Chaos.
Chaos.
Ugh.
Wildness. The bad parts of himself that he had to amputate to become the custodial dad. Going back to her is a regression. It's a way to visit the parts of himself he's not allowed to show his new wife.
That is profound. It flips the script. He's not cheating on his wife with Olivia. He's cheating on his good guy persona with his bad guy shadow.
That's a brilliant way to put it, yes. The source has this great line. The affair isn't about sex. It's about the parts of himself he's been taught to hate.
Wow.
Jerrod's shadow, the part of him that wants to be reckless and free, has been starving for 5 years. Olivia is the doorway back to that shadow self. It's a symbolic rebellion against his own respectable life.
It reminds me of the classic midlife crisis cliche. You know, the guy buys a Ferrari or runs off with the nanny.
Jung saw the midlife crisis as a reckoning with the unlived life. If Jerrod feels like he's living in a cage of responsibility, even if it's a nice cage, the affair is a desperate attempt to feel alive again, even if it destroys everything. He's lighting a match just to see if he can still feel the heat.
Let's flip the lens over to Olivia, because she is tragic in a completely different way. She's had 2 more kids by 2 different men. She's pregnant again, and she is convinced Jerrod is still in love with her.
Right.
She thinks they're soulmates.
Olivia's behavior is a textbook example of what the articles describe as emotional illiteracy and the inability to face the inner void.
Emotional illiteracy sounds harsh, like she can't read her own feelings.
It's not meant to be an insult. It's a diagnosis of a skill deficit. The argument is that when we don't do our inner work, when we can't sit with our own pain or emptiness, we seek external solutions. We try to plug the hole in our soul with other people.
So the rapid-fire relationships, the pregnancy.
It's a cycle of avoidance. The notes say, no external relationship can resolve an internal split. Olivia is seeking completion. She feels broken or empty, so she projects her need for wholeness onto these men. She thinks, if I just have him, or if I have a baby, I'll be real, I'll be whole.
It's like she's trying to build an identity out of other people.
Exactly. And regarding her belief that Jerrod is still in love with her, that is almost certainly projection reversal.
What is that?
She is projecting her need for him onto him. She needs him to love her, to validate her existence, so she convinces herself that he does. She interprets his cheating, which, remember, was likely him just venting his shadow as proof of true love.
Oh, wow.
She's chasing the ghost of connection because she's terrified of facing her own solitude.
It's heartbreaking. She's running from herself, and Jerrod is running from his perfect self, and they collide in the middle.
And that collision creates the magic they think they feel. The source material warns us about this illusion. The magic of the affair, or the magic of a new relationship, is often just the echo of our own disowned selves.
Right.
It feels electric because you're touching a live wire in your own unconscious, not because the other person is actually your savior.
I want to pause here because I think a lot of listeners might be thinking, okay, this is all very deep, but maybe men are just wired this way. Maybe Jerrod just has needs, the biological excuse. He's a man, he needs variety.
The material we looked at is very firm on this. It basically dismisses the men are just wired to spread their seed argument entirely. It reframes cheating as a coping mechanism, strikingly similar to alcoholism or workaholism.
A coping mechanism for what?
For stress, for fear of intimacy, for the inability to process vulnerability. Think about it. If Jerrod cheats, he gets a massive dopamine hit. The forbidden aspect makes it exciting. He uses that rush to numb out the boredom or the pressure of his real life.
So it's a drug.
It is 100% a drug. He was using the affair to self-soothe. It's not biology, it's psychology. It's an unhealthy way to regulate his own nervous system.
So we have 2 fractured people using each other as drugs, essentially.
Yes. And as long as they do that, the cycle will repeat. Jerrod could marry 10 perfect women, and Olivia could have 10 more partners, and they will both end up in the same place. Empty, restless, and destructive.
That's a bleak picture. So what is the way out? How do you stop a train that's been running like this for a decade? We promised some insights, not just a diagnosis.
Jung has a term for the solution. It's the cornerstone of his entire philosophy: individuation.
Individuation. That sounds like a buzzword. Break that down for us.
It's the process of becoming an undivided whole. It means integrating the shadow and the anima so you don't have to project them onto other people. It means claiming your own garbage.
Okay, let's make that practical. What does individuation look like for Jerrod? He's the guy who thinks he's good.
For Jerrod, it means he has to stop being the perfect guy. He has to acknowledge his shadow. He needs to admit to himself and maybe even his current wife that he's a saint, that he feels restless, that he desires chaos or freedom.
So he should just tell his wife, hey, honey, I feel like wrecking our life today.
Well, maybe with a bit more tact. But essentially, yes. He needs to find a way to express those parts of himself without blowing up his life. Maybe he needs a high-risk hobby. Maybe he needs deep therapy where he can vent those dark thoughts. but he has to stop pretending the dark thoughts don't exist.
He needs to bring the shadow into the light so it stops controlling him from the basement.
Exactly. The source says, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Jerrod thinks his mess with Olivia is fate. It's not. It's just his refusal to look at his own dark side.
Right.
He needs to communicate his restlessness rather than acting on it.
And what about Olivia? She feels like she has a much steeper hill to climb.
She does. Her work is about the animus, her male counterpart. She needs to stop searching for stability and worth in external men. She keeps looking for a man to save her, to be the container for her emotions.
She needs to become her own container.
Yes. She needs to face the emptiness the source describes. She has to sit with the void without using a relationship or a pregnancy as a numbing agent. It's about learning to be alone without feeling abandoned.
That sounds incredibly difficult.
It is. It's probably the hardest work a human being can do. But the alternative is to keep repeating the same tragedy forever.
You know, when we started this deep dive, it sounded like we were just going to gossip about a messy divorce. But this is really about the human condition, isn't it?
It always is. We look at Jerrod and Olivia and we want to judge them. We want to sort them into good and bad.
Yeah.
But through the Jungian lens, we see them as fractured souls. They're people who have never learned to be whole on their own.
And because they aren't whole, they keep trying to steal pieces of themselves from each other.
That is a beautiful and tragic way to put it, yes. They are picking each other's pockets for the things they can't find in themselves.
So, for everyone listening, been the Jerrod, the Olivia, or just the person watching it happen, this is a wake-up call. The chaos in our lives isn't usually random bad luck. It's a map.
It's a map of the things we refuse to look at inside ourselves.
Absolutely. The source material ends with a thought that really stuck with me, and I think it applies perfectly to Jerrod and Olivia's saga. We often ask if cheating is a betrayal of the partner, but there is a deeper question.
Right. Is cheating ultimately a betrayal of love, or is it a betrayal of oneself?
Wow.
When we look at their timeline, we don't see villains. We see people who refuse to meet themselves. And until they do, they'll keep hurting everyone around them.
That is a lot to think about. We're going to leave it there for today. Thank you for going on this deep dive with us. It's been heavy, but hopefully illuminating.
Always a pleasure.
Maybe on the next one.
Okay, so there you have it. This was the deep dive, and the subject matter was Olivia and Jerrod's toxic relationship and how it still continues, and it's continuing because they have kids in common and they have this custody issue that keeps rearing its ugly head. Not just the custody issue, but the issue of child support. So tell me, what do you think of this deep dive? Do you think they hit the nail on the head? I think they made some really valid points. Me being the cynic that I am, I still do not believe that Jerrod had a full-fledged affair. Now, you can say, well, a little bit is too much. And I would agree. But I don't buy into her fantasy. But I do like this deep dive because it gives me some insight and understanding, not just about why Jerrod possibly has cheated with Olivia again, or his history of cheating. It also gives some insight to Olivia. And we all know one of the takeaways was that she needs therapy. She doesn't see it that way. And we know from Olivia and from Jerrod that Jerrod is in therapy. Now, I don't know how consistent it is. I don't know how deep or intensive it is. And Jerrod, if you by chance listen to this video, maybe you want to consider talking to your therapist about that inner turmoil that you have. Because I do believe that the pressure to be perfect with Nisha is slowly eating away at him. And he doesn't know how to communicate to Nisha that, you know, he just wants to take a break from being perfect. Maybe they can be unperfect together. I'm not saying mimic his relationship with Olivia, being toxic and arguing and fighting and all that other stuff. But maybe there is a way that he can release all of that that pressure, because the pressure is definitely there. We're just on the outside looking in, and we get frustrated with Olivia. Can you imagine actually being Jerrod or being Nisha? So I'm going to go ahead and end it right here. Again, if you like this type of content, please consider first and foremost, liking the video. And if you want to hear more content like this, please consider joining the tribe. Okay? That is it for today. Until I upload the next time, I will talk to you guys later. Bye now.